Here we are back again with another episode of Wisdom to Wealth. We've been off for a while because I've been busy doing other stuff. But anyhow, Wisdom to Wealth, what we do here is we help you have control over your finances so your finances do not have control over you. And we've been seeing that. We have been seeing that. So I'm just going to pop open my Facebook here and move this into another group. And how are you, Theresa, this morning?
I'm good. I'm just trying to figure out what the groundhog saw today so that we know whether we have sunshine for the next 6 weeks and warm weather or whether winter is going to continue.
Oh, yeah, I think the winter is going to continue because it almost feels like it hasn't started. It's just started
Exactly.
today.
Unfortunately, so.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So let's jump in. I'm all ready. So 2022 was a year of change. So for many of us, older folks, so we'll say baby boomers and older, we're not, this is not new to us. Okay. So don't think that this is the end of the world. This is not an economic tsunami. We've been through economic tsunamis before. This is not. What this is the Bank of Canada and the Fed in the US and actually all over the world. They're just tightening monetary policy. And the reason for that is when we get into expansion, we have to go back into contraction. So economics is a cycle. It's a science. You don't need to be, thinking that your life is over because it's not. This is just a cycle that we're going through. So the Bank of Canada has to raise up the interest rates to be able to pull back on the monetary policy. So when there's less money floating around, this will bring back the inflation. So this is what we're seeing. Inflation was coming, so it's not any new. It's not new news to me. But it may be to a generation who has never seen this before. So, and that would be speaking to the millennials, which would be around, I think they're around 39 and under. And so this is all new to them because they've lived in a world of, 2% mortgage interest rates or 3.5%. Like, so everything's been really great. And now all of a sudden, bang, we're seeing these changes. So the other thing that we saw that was unique this year, but of course it was going to happen, is the bond market fell. So the stock market fell, but it didn't really fall very much. It was a little bit. And, we don't feel sorry for you because it was just the cream off the top. The US doubled the money in 5 years. So if you lost 20%, your returns are only 80% in the last 5 years instead of 100%. So don't take that one too seriously. And actually, first month of January, we've had stellar returns everywhere, even in the bond market. So the bonds, this is what's affecting people's accounts. When you look at your statement, you're going, what in the world? This hasn't happened since the 1970s. Okay. So we had double-digit losses in the bond market. So what that means is when you buy bonds, you're like, hey, that's supposed to be fixed income. I'm supposed to be making money here no matter what. And you're telling me that my account went down. It's like, yeah, your bonds went down. So, and they will kick out double-digit returns this year. So don't sell your bond funds. Don't worry about your investment account. So you've got two things going on. Your investment account has gone down when you look at your year-end statements, which is like, there's that. If you have a mortgage where you're on a variable rate, then all of a sudden now your payment might go up, $500 a month or even more. So that is another situation where people are, as Theresa says, wants to poke their eyes out. This is not forever. And it's a little bit like a seesaw or teeter-totter. So as interest rates go up, what we see is the price of things start to come down. And this is what the world is trying to do right now. So this is normal. It's not like it's the end of the world, because when things become very expensive, guess what? We spend less. Now, Theresa's going to get into that part, because that's the psychology of what the world is trying to do right now, is to slow us down on spending. Now, if we wind back to what we were like 40, 50 years ago, or longer, when we were born, we were taught not to spend buckets of money. So we didn't. So anyhow, Theresa, your turn.
Yeah, Whitney, as you said, there's a bunch of things happening out there in the world that we can't control. So what we want to focus on is taking advantage of the situation as it is to reset and realign our own finances. And I've always believed where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. And this is the time. So taking advantage of these times to get clear and reset how you're spending money will definitely help. So always focusing on what we can control. So for many people, it's things like paying off your credit card before interest is added. Ideally, pay it off bi-weekly. Every time you get paid, pay it off so you don't trick yourself into believing you have extra money in the bank when you really don't. It's on that little piece of plastic. So that is the best habit. If we all love using credit cards, we have no choice but to use them. Love the cash back, but do yourself a favor, stay on top of it, pay it off bi-weekly. One of the other things is staying on top of your cash flow. No month is ever the same. We have different expenses, but staying on top of it builds awareness. And I've watched people go through this hundreds of times and literally sit there in shock once they put in their fixed costs to realize, wow, where's the rest of my money? And I can tell you, it's really exciting and fun if you say, geez, I have that extra money, I'm going to pay myself first. And if I'm doing that already, I'm going to up the amount I'm paying myself to do so I don't get back into the habit of just spending money emotionally on stuff. We all do it, it's okay, but you don't want to get into a bad habit of doing it and not being in control of your finances so that you can build the buckets of money deeper. And when an opportunity comes up, you can use your money to do that versus nickeling and diming yourself. So keep on top of your cash flow.
I think, and just speaking about debt and credit cards like that, only use your credit card if you can't manage it, just leave it in your bedroom drawer. But if whatever you use, anyone uses on their credit card, pay it when your bill comes due. And so somebody could say, well, my car broke down. What am I supposed to do? So there are ways to just not get into that situation.
Right.
And it really is about managing spending, what you're talking about. If we go back to, when I first started out in life, when I was an adult and I was moved out and making money, I saved everything that I made. So because I did that and I did without, so I didn't buy anything. I didn't buy any clothes or anything. I took, back then, it's a long time ago, 40 years ago, I took like $20 a week as spending money, and that was it. And I stayed like that. And I did that for a year. And so I had nothing for a year. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to buy a house, right? I was renting an apartment, and I'd gotten married with my new husband who blew money left, right, and center. So I said, great, here is a point. Listen to this. If you are in a relationship and one person is a spender and one is a saver, the spender should pay 100% of the bills outside of personal shopping. Okay. That person pays all the bills because they are going to spend. The saver is going to put the money aside. I was the saver. So for 1 year, I saved up my money and I bought my first house. So this is something that this millennial generation knows nothing about, right? About doing without. So batten down the hatches is one of the things that I'm going to talk about. And battening down the hatches is what you want to do right now in 2023. You need to follow what the government or what the Bank of Canada is trying to do. Stop spending money. Just stop it. Stop it for a year and only buy what you need to get on, because right now things are just costing more money. So just stop it. I don't notice in the grocery store very much, because I'm not buying buckets and buckets of food, right? But if I was, I don't know how families do it right now. It's got to be very tough. So that's why everything has to be stopped right now. And by that budget, what Theresa was saying is having a line item of everything you're spending, so that you know that in the month of February, these are my non-negotiables. I have to pay these things. And I know people have children in hockey and stuff like that. So there's all of that stuff that has to be looked at. And at the end of the month, if there's nothing left, you better put your credit card away, because it is the month that you buy nothing.
Absolutely. And Whitney, when you're talking about what you did with putting your $20 away or managing your budget, it's very empowering, because all of a sudden, a year later, you feel like, wow, I did it. And let me do it again. So it becomes a really good habit for yourself, and it builds confidence. The other point you touched on was, a lot of the millennials haven't been through this. They've had low interest rates, enjoyed the ride of that. And we have a lot of wisdom. And none of us learned this in school. It's not our fault, but it is our problem. And we're happy to share our wisdom, so you don't have to learn the hard way. You don't have to live with someone or be married for a couple of years where one person's a spender and one's a saver. And then you realize 2, 3, 5, sometimes decades later that, ooh, that didn't actually work. And trying bite-sized habits in place can turn that corner really quickly. So that's great. And to touch on your grocery point, we got in the habit where money was flowing constantly, markets were up, people were making 20%, and we weren't just buying what we needed. We got in the habit of just buying whatever we wanted. So if you focus back in on your needs, which when we go to the grocery store, now you're lucky if you get a bag for $50 to $75. But when money is flowing like crazy and you're not paying yourself first and you have that excess money, I know me, I'm buying more groceries. And guess what happens? At the end of the week, I throw stuff away.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. I get excited looking at my fridge and seeing air, space, not a bunch of stuff that is expiring.
Yeah, I like this, Theresa. Anybody that I highly encourage you to speak to Theresa. Working on this budget, it really works well. I'm telling you, it makes a difference between having and not having, and it's not about starving yourself out. Sometimes the lowest income earners actually have the most money, believe it or not. 100%. The high income earners are just spending it like water. And then there's a come to Jesus moment. Like there's people with $1 million mortgages. Like, I haven't had a mortgage for years, right? And what's annoying to me is that I never got the low rates. Like I never was one of those people. I was way back, 13.5%. When I bought my first house when I was 20, it was 13.5%. I remember on my second house, I remember buying down my mortgage because the rates dropped to 10%. And I was like, yoo-hoo, I'm going to spend $5,000 to break this mortgage so I can get a 10% interest rate. So, I mean, that's what I lived through. Now, we weren't paying $1.5 million for a house back then either. So that's that seesaw effect that I'm talking about. If you have low rates, your house price is going to be higher. If you're looking for a house, don't say, hey, I'm not going to buy one because it's a crappy time. No, it's not. You're going to end up with the same payment. If you paid $1.4 million, I don't know what houses are today because I don't buy them, but say a house is $800,000. Now it's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's 700,000 or something. So you just have that seesaw effect where your payments are the same. Theresa, you were going to talk, so battening down hatches, and just one thing I just want to mention briefly is hold off on buying cars right now. Can you hold off? For me, I didn't buy my first car until I was, first brand new car until I was 36. And that's because people were teasing the daylights out of me. I just didn't care what I drove. And I used to say, hey, my car's free. It's all paid off. I never had car loans, right? I just bought them for cash. So at 36, I started this new game. And I did that from 36 until 57 when my lease came up during COVID and there was nothing to buy. And I said, hey, what's my buyout on my car, right? Because I don't pay attention to this. They said 60,000. I'm like, I can't buy a car for 60. So I said, here's your 60. I now own a car. I don't have a payment on it anymore. And you know what? I'm going back to where I was when I was younger, cheap. I don't need a new car. I don't care. When I get in it, I'm driving. I can't see the outside of it. And I certainly don't need it for my self-esteem, which Theresa's going to jump into keeping up with the Joneses.
Well, you know what? That's so funny, Whitney, because you and I have not talked about this. This is the first time in 20 years that I have bought out a lease. So January 3rd, I went, what do I care? This car is, my SUV is safe.
Yeah.
It's paid for.
Yeah.
Well, I bought it out and paid for it. But it is so funny how our money mindset changes. And that ties back into probably keeping up with the Joneses, is that, you know what, I don't care. What do I care about is driving a safe vehicle that's reliable and that fulfills my needs as far as space goes. So as far as keeping up with the Jones, you know what, honestly, I live in a subdivision and I haven't seen it lately, but in the past decade, all of a sudden a for sale sign goes up and it's like, oh, where are you guys going? Well, we're splitting. Well, and one or the other can't afford to stay there. Well, I know when I went through a separation 10 years ago, it was like, there's no way. It's bad enough that you're splitting up your family, but I'm not moving my kids too. And if you have control of your finances versus them controlling you, you are able to sustain parts of your world when things blindside you. So, you know, really at the end of the day, keeping up with the Jones is a very short-lived game, and it will always catch up with you if you're not living within your means.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because then you're forever just trying to pay out debt. And the thing is too, when we're doing stuff like that, I mean, I know I was like that when I was in my 20s, and the Joneses was my dad, because my father was very successful, so I had to be the same, right? But here's the thing is that your soul is never full, because you always want more, and you always want more, and you always want more, and you always want more. So that's not a good thing. So anybody who can relate to some of this or wants to understand some of this, we do have chats going on right now, but I can't do the multitask on my cell phone, so we'll pick it up after we shut down. But keep talking, because you're only as sick as your secrets. So if you're hiding, you know, what it is you're doing, there is ways to get through this. And this is not forever. And when you look at the long-term interest rates, they're not on a trajectory going up. In fact, your long-term rates are actually, it's inverted. So your long-term rates are actually lower than your 1 year rate. So just hang on. This will sort out. We should have a healing 2023 and a good 24 and a good 25. We are here to talk to you. We want you to excel. And both Theresa and I are single women for a very, very long time, me like almost 25 years. And we know what it's like to raise a family and do that on our own and keep a roof over our head. And, you know, we can do that. We can show you how to do that. Also, too, we encourage people to have a side hustle or to even jump into a new passion that you want to do, because if it's something that you really love doing, the money will come. Don't make money your God. You know, just have control of it. It's a tool, and the rest of your life will flourish, and filling your buckets and having, you know, some savings so that so that you're not saying like, oh crap, the brakes went on my car and now I don't know what to do. So there are ways to get out of this, and we're more than willing to chat online or chat on a personal one-to-one to help get yourself organized and get ahead. Because you know what? We were all like this way back. But the difference is we had parents that taught us differently. Okay. You want a bike? You go out and you work for it, right? So we babysat, we delivered newspapers, we did all sorts of stuff. My kids, you want a bike? Go pick it out. You want an iPod? Oh, sure. What's that? I don't know what that is. Oh, $400. I remember paying for that like 20 years ago. I didn't even know what those things were. So the kids, these kids, and I mean, my kids were in university for so long, they had no idea about what was going on. But they had the work ethic, and they both had businesses. So they had done very, very well. So it is a new world where we have spoiled our children, and they haven't been through the hard knocks that our parents put us through. So let us help you get out of that. And I have massive faith for the millennial generation. I really do. I think you guys are going to rock it, and you're going to run this world. But until we put the reins over, we're still controlling it. So yeah, let us help you, show you how.
Yeah, you know what, Whitney, as we wrap up, everyone is different. What we do is meet you where you're at, and then get you on a simple priority path of creating small habits that you can look back at and be very proud of and feel empowered with.
I love it. Let's get you on track. And so today's Thursday, but we're going to be doing the Wisdom to Wealth now every Wednesday at 10 a.m. And we'd like to keep it to 10 to 15 minutes. We ran over a little bit. So we'll keep it tighter next time. They're also up on YouTube. Watch them on as we say, hashtag replay, follow them. But really what we want to do is we want to help pull people through this situation, to let them know that this is not the end of the world. And I can tell you, if it were me back when my children were little and I had a mortgage and all of that, I think I would be like grasping for help. There wasn't help back then. There is now. Like there's help, there's hope. So don't worry. Everything's gonna work out. It really is. So but you have to talk. You can't keep it in. So talk to us, talk to your advisor, talk to your parents, but let's get talking. So see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m.
All right. Thanks, Whitney.